Hi everyone, well, how's everyone doing? So yeah, I'm back for a video, and yes, this video is one that is going to have a topic rather than just a vlog. I'm actually going to be talking about something, and this is yet another response, sort of, to a video which Nolsey posted recently on his vlog channel. So I thought, yeah, let's do it while I feel good and up to it. And what the topic of this video is just about reminiscing about easier times as a kid, which is the main topic he talked about in his video. And watching his video made me think about times I enjoyed and deeply miss as a child. So I thought, well, I'll make my own video on the subject. Okay, well, I'm going to start by saying I was born in 1990, so I was a real 90s kid. The decade I grew up with, with was the 1990s, and I will say that I think I'm very proud to have been a 90s kid. I think that was a very good decade to be a kid in, which looking at how the kids now and the things the kids have got and how the world has changed, I don't know if I would enjoy it. Trying to put myself in a kid's shoes today, I don't know if I would have as fond of memories of my childhood as an adult if I'd been a kid in this day and age, say from 2010, 2014 to 2024 now, if I was a teenager or, becoming a young adult now. But yeah, I'm so happy I was a 1990s kid. And I have lots of good fun memories, all the things that I was into, and to think now that, a lot of the things I was into as a kid and I'm still into, they're still going now, still on, a lot of things are still ongoing franchises, certainly not, the versions and the continuations have been around since, certainly aren't as special to me as the originals or the much older much older versions that I remember. But yeah, okay, so well, I will say that I'm going to start mainly, I think, by talking about the technology, because that's something that technology is something I'm very passionate about, and I'm going to just talk about, how my favourite memories of the certain toys I played with, games I played, how we watched movies. So when I was about my earliest memories are about being sort of 4 to 5 years old, of coming home first from nursery, then school, and always wanting to put a video on was the first thing I wanted to do when I got home. And when my parents said that I couldn't watch video for whatever reason, whether they just said no, you need to, we want to have a break from videos tonight, or if I was being punished for misbehaving, I would not be very happy. But by videos, what I mean is VHS tapes. Mainly a lot of the VHS tapes we have were of the classic Disney films, plus all the Disney films that I grew up with in the 1990s. Yeah, so odds are 5 nights a week I would, I would come home and put a video on, coming home from school, and I just those memories of having that video cassette. Of course, back in the days, it was maybe once every, when I would get a new film on video, it would be a treat. We did have a lot because that's what I enjoyed doing, but of course, back in those days, VHS tapes, new releases, particularly of the big studios like Disney and all those, they were quite pricey, something like between £13 and £15, yeah. So it would be a very special treat, or of course for my birthday and Christmas, I obviously got videos, and occasion, and I'd probably get something like that as a sort of an Easter present alongside a few Easter eggs. Yeah, so and I remember particularly how often I would want to watch the same videos because which is something I think my parents weren't keen on, is the fact that because the first house we lived in when from when I was born up to when I was 5, we lived in an apartment house, which basically had quite a big apartment in a shared house, but we only had like one TV with a video player in the living room. So given how often I wanted to watch the same movies, like the Disney movies, and the ones I particularly talk about, it began, I think, with Alice in Wonderland, the original Disney animated and Alice in Wonderland. I would watch that, and I think for about a year, I watched that almost every day, and that honestly drove my parents mad. But then when I started. So yeah, Alice in Wonderland, that's a real childhood favourite. And then when my mum would take me to the cinema, I'm quite certain the first movie my mum took me to see at the cinema was The Lion King, that was in '94. And I do remember. I think we actually went to go and see it a couple of times rather than just once. And when that video came out, that was another one I started watching just again and again and again. And all the Disney toys I used to get, of course. I think I know that I think the Disney shop's recently gone out of business. But yeah, I remember when we would go into the city of Leicester. Sometimes at weekends we'd always go in the Disney shop, and if I was lucky, I would get come out maybe with a toy. And I know, like back in the days in the Disney shop where they had like those big bins of all the plushes, to dig in and find the one you wanted. Which those were just fun days. And I had a Simba plush which I got from Disneyland, and I had a Timon plush which I think I've still got. I've still got the Timon here somewhere. He's dug up somewhere down here. Also Pinocchio was my favourite. Was another favourite, and I think I've still got my Jiminy Cricket plush, which I had because I loved Jiminy Cricket when I was little. And I had like various Disney figures. I had art books, clothes, and so I just eagerly awaited to get every Disney release after seeing the during the Disney Renaissance period, which I think was another good thing about the '90s was that was the decade of the Disney Renaissance, which I think went from The Little Mermaid to Tarzan, from 1989 to 1999. Which was another thing I think to remember. And of course, when I started watching TV regularly on Saturday mornings, by the time which I was in about the second year of primary school, the first kid show I was really passionate about was Power Rangers in my school years, because that's what all the kids were into, and plus it was just a fun show. And of course, it was the main purpose for that show being created was to sell toys. And I loved we had obviously we had Woolworths here, and people remember Woolworths. Unfortunately, I think it was one of the first big companies to go down during the financial crash, but in 2008. But yeah, I used to go in there, and I'd often spend my pocket money on either a Power Rangers comic, or if I was lucky enough to get a toy. I was terrible at saving up pocket money. Which was a huge annoyance to my dad. I remember there used to be these little sort of micro machine type things like from Power Rangers that you could buy for £1, and some in cases where I'd get like a comic, maybe one of those, but then usually for my birthday or usually for my birthday or obviously for Christmas, I got like the big toys like the Megazords and the more of the role playing stuff. And there were and as well as that, there were the other shows that Saban did, which I also watched and thoroughly enjoyed. There was Masked Rider, Beetleborgs, VR Troopers, and all those. I mean, of course, it's so weird now. It's just so weird to look back at those times now and just think how much things have changed. To think that I mean, we don't even have like a proper toy shop here in this town anymore. I think because one of the reasons is that you're still going to the cities and there are still a good few toy shops, but I think because kids of this generation they more like things on a screen. They're always on tablets, phones, you know. But yeah, it was just so much fun. Particularly the Power Ranger toys I like to play with were like the figures that had the original Mighty Morphin Power Ranger figures. I think they were the Transforming Action Rangers they were called, which were the toys that you basically, the action figures where you flip the head and then they'd have their civilian head, and then you'd push the morpher button on the waist, and then the head would flip over. I had like the White Ranger sword, Saber, which I got for Christmas one year. I had a Power Rangers play suit, the Red Ranger play suit. And I used to, I remember I have a photo of me somewhere, a digitally restored photo of me in front of the Christmas tree wearing it that Christmas day, Christmas 1995. And that was like really, really fun. I used to go around pretending to be Jason, the Red Ranger, and my dad got me a red ninja sword to play with it, which was always good, which also was fun. I just, when I look back on those days now, I mean, obviously we can still watch, the things we were into, because a lot of things are available on streaming services, plus we can watch a lot of things here on YouTube, of course, and there have been regular DVD releases, over the years, which I bought, and of course, I was always still a passionate Disney fan, but around the time when I was 7 or 8, my parents stopped buying me so many toys, because even though at times I'd still want them, my parents would say, no, you don't, because you don't play with them anymore. And often the thing is, I didn't often play. I'd often would get bored easily playing with toys. Like some toys I had, which some toys I had, which I have fond memories of. I did play with very regularly. Like I had a Toy Story toys. Like I had a Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story. And I think I'm one of the very few kids of the generation that didn't get to go and see the first Toy Story at the cinema. But I equally was excited about it, and I got the video for Christmas 1995, and I also and that's I think when I got the Buzz Lightyear figure. And I watched Toy Story several times a day for so long. And surprisingly, what I can remember is that, how video cassettes would wear down, like the tape would stretch, if you kept rewinding them, rewatching them continuously. I'm surprised that a lot of our VHSs held out for as long as they did. Because a lot of them, still seem to work fine after about 10 years. Because it wasn't until sort of the early 2000s when Disney started doing the Disney DVD special edition releases of all the classics from the Disney Vault, which of course I bought. And nowadays, of course, for Disney, most of the stuff we can watch on Disney Plus. I say just those days of having that nice those video cassettes in those in those jazzy VHS cases with those chubby covers, and those were just the days. And I'm very thankful, and I can really appreciate, nowadays I can really appreciate the things that I'm still into. Of course I hope that many of today's kids, I know many of today's kids will be introduced to all the Disney classics and stuff. They'll probably grow to love all them as equally, but they won't be able to experience them in the ways that, us 90s kids did. And that's what I think is good. And that's why, and that's something that I really am fond. Those are fond memories, of buying toys, buying video VHSs, my first CDs and all that. Because of course all these things are digital now. And I'm quite aware that there are a lot of people that still like to mainly prefer using the physical media method. But I mean, I still like to have physical media. But the thing is, I live in a very small flat, and as you can see behind me, I've got a lot of stuff. And you know, I've got a huge collection of DVDs and Blu-rays here, and I've kept a few of my old VHSs I have from a child, or one of the few ones that my mum saved, and I've still got them up there. Of course, I can't really use them anymore, but it's good to have them. But yeah, so I have decided. I mean, I've not completely stopped buying physical media, and I still buy a lot of video games physically because you tend to get cheaper deals on them. Like, you can buy them online rather than buying them from the PlayStation Store or the Xbox or Nintendo Store, things like that. And yeah, and another thing was my next big obsession, I think, after Power Rangers was Star Wars, and this comes into 1997. At the time, I was 7 years old. And this was when the special editions of the original trilogy was first being theatrically released. And I had seen, I think I'd seen, like, Star Wars, the original release of Star Wars from the previous VHS release, and The Empire Strikes Back, which is the one we had at home. I'd seen that, and I hadn't seen Return of the Jedi all the way through. But when my dad took me to see like A New Hope Episode 4 at the cinema, and I remember that day my dad had bought me like this sort of big set of Micro Machine little Star Wars toys, and I took like the Millennium Falcon with me, and I remember that was a really exciting night. Then of course when the movies came out on video, we bought the box set, and I started collecting Star Wars stuff. Like I had like a lot, for like about two or three Christmases in a row from when I was like 7 to 10. So 1997 to 2000. To 1999 to 2000 time, and I had like the big Millennium Falcon, I had an X-wing fighter, I had a TIE fighter, I had a snow speeder, and I had a few of the smaller ships as well. I collected so many of the figures, like the little about the like the small, like 5-inch figures. I had like a huge collection of them. I had obviously I had lightsabers. Yep, I had lightsabers. I had I think one Christmas I got, the first one I got was the Luke Skywalker's one, his second lightsaber, from the green one from Return of the Jedi. And then the following Christmas I got the Darth Vader one. And toy swords, certain role. I love to play a lot with toy weapons. I had lots of toy guns. I also had Han Solo's pistol. And yeah, those were the things that I really liked to play with. Like I'd go up to my room and reenact things I'd watched on TV with like plastic swords and lightsabers and toy guns and all those kind of things. And then, of course, when the Star Wars prequels came out, I'll just quickly say, and of course, when Star Wars Episode 1 came out in 1999, I went to see it countless times at the cinema, despite the fact I was aware that I was quite aware, particularly by the older generation of Star Wars fans, the original generation, that film hadn't been very well received. But I said, around the time that I went to see it countless times because I thoroughly enjoyed it, and my sister was like nuts about Jar Jar Binks, which I'm quite aware was one of the big reasons. They said a lot of the older generation obviously didn't like the Phantom Menace or the prequels in general. So I saw it. We went to go and see that film several times at the cinema, and then I remember, I think it was Easter 2000 when around the time the VHS was released, and I got that. I didn't have so many toys from the prequels because around that time was when my parents stopped buying me toys, and would buy me more videos and VHSs and video games. And okay, we'll move on to the video game stuff next. But I did have like the Darth Vader lightsaber. I had all the light up lightsabers, not the ones that made the noises, but the ones that lit up from the prequels. So that'll bring me to now video games. Now I only had like a PC, which my parents bought me. I think they intended for it to help me with schoolwork, but despite the fact we didn't have the internet at home till I was about 15. But things I used to do on that computer when my grandmother died in '96, I think it was. With some of the money that she'd left me, I was bought a home computer, and of course, looking at those big, those huge, well, not huge, but like those big bulk, those small sort of small square monitors, and like the big computer, the big main device, and then you had the big white keyboards, and things like I had several games that I'd play on that. I had like the Toy Story storybook version, and also the Hercules storybook version, which are the two main games I played quite regularly. Of course, though back in the day, those were really expensive. They were like getting on between 40 and 50 odd quid. So clearly my parents wouldn't buy me as many of those. I mean, we weren't a poor family. We weren't a poor family, but we weren't like a first class family. And I know my parents were quite sensible, about how about buying me stuff and buying me and my sister stuff. I wouldn't have agreed with that at the time. I'd always want more. But looking back now, I can't say I was spoiled as a child. But I was treated well. Every now and then I would, my parents would be in the mood to treat me, and get away with an expensive present. Yeah. But when in 1999, for my 9th birthday, was when I got my first PlayStation. Now the thing is, I'd never actually played on a PlayStation or a Nintendo or a Sega or anything like that. I'd never played on a home console until I got one. But the reason made me want to get one was because a few of my friends got their first PlayStations for Christmas. Christmas that year, or Christmas '98 it would have been, and my best friend got one and told me about the game. He got Crash Bandicoot, and I really want one of these. Now, at first when I spoke to my parents about it, they said I'd probably have to wait till next Christmas. Well, this Christmas coming, which at the time was almost a goddamn year away. But thing is, I had some money for my birthday. I'd been given a bit more money for my birthday than I think was intended by various relatives and various friends. Of course, also in the days where I used to quite regularly have swimming parties for my birthday party, because I used to love swimming as a kid, and and usually when my friends would ask me, "What would you like for your present?" and then a lot of my friends gave me money, so rather than presents. So my mum and we went shopping about a week after my birthday. Or week after my birthday party that year, I think we went shopping, and my mum, and after looking around, I said, Mum says, "Right, what do you want?" I said, "Can we have a look at some PlayStations?" He said, "Well, yeah, we can have a look at them. I don't know if we can get one, because I don't know if you can afford it. But if we can find like a decent enough deal, then maybe we'll swing it." And I think at the first time we looked at some Nintendo 64s, which my mum, I think, tried to steer me in that direction because they were a bit cheaper. And we looked at them, and but I knew back in the back of my head what I wanted was a PlayStation, because that's what I'd been told about. And eventually, we went to one of the main game shops in Leicester, which isn't there anymore, unfortunately. Like, it was basically the equivalent of Game, but I can't remember what it was called. But I went in there several times with my dad to buy when he'd buy a computer game occasionally, and yes, we eventually settled on a deal, I think, for the value pack PlayStation, which is where you get the 2 analog controllers plus a memory card with the console. Whereas if you wanted the DualShock pack, which is the DualShock controller, but you didn't get a memory card and you only got one controller with that, which is with the value pack you got the console, you got 2 controllers and a memory card, and I managed to get a copy of Crash Bandicoot. I think I remember a game being recommended. I nearly bought another one, but then I think when my mum asked one of the store clerks about about the best games, and they got like a copy of Crash Bandicoot for 20 quid, and I said, oh yeah, that's the one my friend was telling me about, so I got that. And of course, luckily, when I got home that day, I remember we plugged it in, and I played on it I played on it for about an hour, and the thing was, I'm sure I'm sure not many kids of this generation have this issue now, but like we're all in front of screens, probably nearly 24/7 these days. But my mum and dad were like tried to try to limit my time on the PlayStation, because once I had it, that was pretty much all I wanted to do. Like, I was wanting to play on the PlayStation more than I was wanting to watch videos, because it was just so much fun playing a game where I'm controlling the character, and for me the PlayStation was just this fun, very new, interactive experience. But it got to the point where I would often be getting up in the mornings at weekends, and playing on the PlayStation for hours, and then my mum would come down maybe a couple of hours. So, how long have you been on that? Yes, and so of course over time, following that, I did get more PlayStation games, like, and so sort of going into sort of leaving the 90s now into the early 2000s. Mainly what I wanted is Christmas and birthday presents, and usually I'd get a game for Easter, and the occasional treat if I'd been good, or I might get a new game. My favourites were like Crash Bandicoot. I had Spyro. I had the Tarzan game based on the Disney film was one I loved. For a while I had Tomb Raider, but I think I eventually traded that in because found it a bit too difficult. Yeah, but so leaving that time behind. So when I started secondary school, I think it was the time when the PS2 was coming out, and by this point I'd had my original PlayStation for getting on for close to 3 years, and my dad had been trying to persuade me to save up and use all my Christmas money I'd have for about a year up until the PS2's release. But a similar story to how I got my original PlayStation was obviously me not wanting to do that, because being a kid, I didn't want to wake up on Christmas morning and have no presents to open. By this point, I was about 11, coming on for 12, but I still like to have Christmas and birthday presents and stuff to open. I just want to say, well, we'll just put, and I didn't want to just be told on my birthday, like, when the PlayStation 2's out, you can have that. I wasn't having that, but around it was for my 12th birthday. I think it was actually a couple of months afterwards, though. My dad hadn't bought me anything, and I came home from school one Friday afternoon, and I went into the back room, which is where me and my sister, where our video player and computer was. We had the sort of back room, where we could do our stuff, whilst my parents would mainly have their videos and all that, and their TV in the living room by then, which we'd moved to a much bigger house. And there was this and I noticed there was this new console, which I assume was the PS2. It was plugged in and ready to go, and then I saw in this bag, it was a couple of PlayStation 2 games. I said, Dad, what, you've got me a PS2? I said, yes, I got you one. And I was like, wow. So it was quite a surprise that, while I'd been at school that day, my dad had been out and got me one. I was like, and I think, the first game I had for that was, the first Crash Bandicoot to be released for it, which was Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex. I played on it, I think, for like about over 3 hours, and then of course with the PS2, meant I could start having DVDs, because we didn't have a regular DVD player for a good couple of years. But when I got the PS2, obviously, that's when I knew I could get DVDs. So the day after that, the Saturday after that, we went and bought the first couple of DVDs. And I had seen a few movies on DVD around families' houses, when I was introduced to the fact that DVDs had more than just the movie on it, as in all the extra features, that was another thing, as well as like the increase in quality, the fact that they didn't wear down, it was just being able to have now with a PlayStation 2, and I could watch DVDs. Eventually, my dad did get a regular DVD player to have in the living room, and funnily enough, the next year, so yeah, I started getting a few PlayStation 2 games over the course of 2002. Of course, though, they were still quite expensive, like good, new ones were like a good 40 odd quid, so didn't get one too often, but I certainly made good use out of what I had. And I remember talking to my dad about buying an Xbox, not long after I'd had the PS2, but he said, no, the Xbox is really expensive, like you'd have to save up your pocket money for like a year and have nothing for your Christmas or birthday maybe for 2 years. So, alright, well, that's fair enough. By this point, yeah, the Xbox had come out. But the funny thing is, because my dad lived in Germany at the time due to his work, and my sister and I started going out during our school holidays to visit him and his then partner, and he decided maybe we'd want to get one to have there at his flat in Germany, which we actually did. This was about a year after I had the PlayStation 2. So we did get one, and of course to have the Xbox there was really fun, and that's what I pretty much used to do in the time we spent at the flat there. Oh, all these fun times. I don't recall that having the problems that it was said that the Xbox had, like scratching, the discs being easy scratch up, or vibrations of thumps or bangs, causing damage to the discs or to the console, is a problem I didn't have. So, yeah, of course, now this is to the point where it's my teenage years, so I'm kind of getting to the end of, the time of which the topic of this video is relevant. But what I will say is that from then, is what's generated my interest in technology today. One final thing I will just talk about is my first phone. Now, this is quite an amusing story. When I wanted my first mobile phone, and of course the reason, why I wanted it was because all my friends had started to get them. And at this point, this goes back to when I was 11 years old at school. But when I asked my parents if I could have one, my parents said to me quite strictly that I couldn't have a working mobile phone till I was 14. And why I say that is because my dad, as sort of a consolation, gave me a couple of his old work ones which didn't work because they didn't have SIM cards in and all that, and they wouldn't charge. Just gave me like a couple of those and said, you can have those to play with, but you can't have like a working phone that you have to pay regularly for till you're 14. But I was having none of that, and for about the course of at least one whole year, I badgered my parents, and got regularly, and was regularly in trouble for I was regularly disciplined for not dropping the subject, but being me, I was a demanding kid. I wasn't what they call a bad kid, but I was quite demanding when it came to things that I wanted. And around Christmas 2001, we finally came to an agreement that I could have a pay-as-you-go phone, provided that I spent every penny of my pocket money on credit for the phone. And then when I finally had a mobile phone, I was like, a working mobile phone, I was over the moon. And then, you know, following over the years, I've had several mobile phones. I've actually got a collection which I think includes the first one I had, which was a Sony, like back in the days of, you know, just, you know, the days of like the Nokia 3310, and, you know, all those old phones with the small buttons, you know, where, you know, phones today, they're like a world away from that. You know, like mini computers technically, but, you know, just having all these memories. And yeah, so some very fond memories. You know, of course, you know, leading to today is that now things I like to watch, games I like to play. Like you know, they've done remasters of all the classic games. You can watch, you know, all your classic favourite cartoons and shows when you were a kid on Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, all the streaming services. And you know, other memories I have of holidays I went on as a kid is, you know, we were quite a fortunate family in terms of, you know, we did do a fair bit of travelling, you know, because my parents liked to see places, so I developed a young passion for travelling. We went on some nice holidays and, you know, did some fun things like going to Spain and Mallorca in like the summer holidays, and, you know, just some very fun times, which of course holidays are still things people go on, you know, of course people go on now. Of course I'm sure that they probably take their smartphones or their tablets with them now. We didn't have those things days when I went on holidays as a kid, but yeah. Okay, well, I think it's been over 35 minutes, so I will say thank you for sticking with me, and you know, throughout this video of me reminiscing about my younger days, and yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed it. If you can tolerate me talking for this long, but nonetheless, thanks for your support. You're all awesome, and I will see you soon. Bye.